So, what does it really mean to be great? Is it about getting everything you want for yourself, or is it something bigger? Today we're going to dive into a pretty challenging answer to that question from a 1981 sermon by Reverend Sun Myung Moon, and it all boils down to a radical choice between two very different ways to live your life. Let's get into it.
You know, the sermon starts with something we can all relate to, right? That feeling of pride. We want to feel proud of our name, our family, our home, even our country. It's a basic human thing to value the people and places closest to us. But, and this is a big but, the sermon immediately throws a wrench in that. It asks, is that kind of pride, the normal, everyday pride we feel, is that actually enough to be considered great? The argument we're about to unpack here suggests the answer is a pretty firm no.
So this is the core idea we're working with. This sermon lays out life as a fundamental choice. It's a crossroads. You can go down one path, which it calls small, or you can go down another, which it calls great. And we're not talking about little tweaks here and there. This is a huge decision about which road you're going to take.
All right, first up, path number 1, what the sermon calls the small life. Now, it's important to get this straight. It's not saying this is a bad life, not at all. It's just a life that's limited in its scope, its vision, and its purpose.
And this chart, man, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? Look at the small life column. The focus is all close to home. Me, my family, my country. And the goal? Personal comfort. But then you look at the great life column, which we'll get to in a sec, and you can see it just blows all of that wide open.
So to make this idea of a small mindset really concrete, the sermon points right at America. The argument goes something like this. You can be proud that America is this huge, powerful country, but what's the point of all that bigness if everyone inside is just fighting each other? That kind of pride from this point of view is pretty shallow.
So when you boil it all down, what is the small mindset? It's all about limits, really. It's being concerned with small stuff, focusing on what's easy and comfortable. It's putting yourself first, that whole I've got my own way attitude. And your vision? Well, it pretty much stops right at your country's border. Okay, so that's the small life. But what's the other option on the table? That brings us to path number 2, the great life. And this one is all about having a purpose that's way, way bigger than just you.
And for examples of this path, the sermon looks to history's heavy hitters, Jesus, Muhammad, Confucius, Buddha. And what's the common thread here? None of them were chasing comfort or personal glory. In fact, it was the total opposite. They are all presented as people who chose a life of hardship, of sacrifice, all for something big. And this quote from Jesus really hammers the point home, right? Foxes have holes, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. The sermon then asks, is that what a great man looks like? And the answer it's pushing for is a huge yes. It's saying greatness isn't about what you have. It's about what you're willing to go without.
And there it is. That's the core idea in a nutshell. According to this sermon, greatness isn't defined by what you have, but by the scale of what you live for. Is your purpose small, just about you and your circle? Or is it huge, encompassing the whole world, all of history, and even God?
So the sermon sets up this big idea, and then it shifts gears. It presents Reverend Moon himself as a modern-day example of someone walking this great, sacrificial path. Let's take a look at how that case is built.
So what's with the number 24? Well, that represents a pretty bold claim from the sermon, that he works 24 hours a day. Not for a paycheck, not for himself, but for this global mission. It's positioned as the ultimate proof of commitment, total sacrifice.
And it's not just talk. The sermon lays out from concrete examples as proof of this worldwide mission. Things like creating student organizations, starting a whole new newspaper to compete with the big guys, bringing scholars together, even developing industries like shipbuilding and fishing. The point is, all of this is framed as being for the world, not for personal profit.
And this quote, wow, it's pretty direct. He basically says, I haven't gotten anything from America. America has gotten things from me. He frames his own persecution as something he endures specifically to teach these ideas, to lift people up so they can benefit the world. So he's tying his own personal struggle right back to that main theme. Greatness comes from sacrifice.
Okay, so this all sounds very grand and noble, but what does it actually mean for a follower, for someone who wants to walk this great path? Well, the sermon doesn't pull any punches. It makes it crystal clear that this is not an easy road. The demands are huge. We're talking life-changing stuff.
and it starts by completely redefining the idea of love. True love in this philosophy isn't what you might think. It's not about romance or just personal feelings. It's a kind of love that's willing to go beyond the personal, beyond family, for the sake of the nation, the world, and God. It's a love built on sacrifice.
And just look at this list. This is where the rubber really meets the road. This isn't some abstract idea anymore. We're talking about postponing marriage for years to work for the mission, expecting your partner to put God's way before you, being willing to pack up and go to a desert or a jungle if that's where you're needed. It's about valuing the mission over your own comfort, over your family's comfort. It's a really intense vision of what commitment looks like.
And so, after laying out these two completely different paths, the small life of comfort and the great life of sacrifice, the sermon ends by turning the spotlight right back on you. It leaves you with this one, final, really provocative question. It asks you to think about what history, what all of mankind, what God can really be proud of in you. It's asking you to judge your life not by your own standards, but by this massive, demanding definition of greatness. Definitely a challenging thought to chew on.